All right, guys, so today we're going to be talking about markers. And I know a lot of people think that they already know all there is to know about markers. But what I want to point out to you, in case you haven't seen this before, is that it really helps if you have different brands of markers so that you have different shades of colors. Because even if you have a pink Crayola, it's probably a slightly different shade than a pink Crazy Art. And there are different batches of markers. So some are tropical, some are bold, some are classic, some are highlighter colors. You know, there's just a lot of choices out there. And it really helps to make sure that you have a lot of different markers so that you have a lot of choices. So guys, one thing I will say that the only gray marker I have ever found is in the Crayola Classic set. So if nothing else, make sure you do get a set of Classic Crayola for the gray marker. That's helpful. But other than that, Crayola is great for many reasons, but they seem to only have one shade of brown. Sometimes you might find another one. But what I recommend for browns is going to Colorations, and that's at Discount School Supply. It's a brand they sell. And they have what's called multicultural brown markers. So they're not just brown, but they're all these different shades. And so they're great for skin tones, but they're really great for just general use. You have all these different colors to choose from, and you do not get that anywhere else. Also, think about Crazy Art. I know I said earlier there's different brands, but think about how, see how this is like a highlighter Crazy Art, and this is a highlighter Crazy Art. But over here we have the regular orange and the regular orange, and you can see they're still different. One's Crayola, one's Crazy Art. So really just do yourself a favor and start a marker collection, guys. But once you have your marker collection started, like I do, you got to take care of them. And how do you take care of them? You do that by making sure that the marker is closed, my friends. A lot of people do this, or worse, they do this. See how it's not really closed? And you know what happens to a marker that's not closed up tight? It dries out. And that is sad. So protect your markers. Keep them sealed up tight. It's really good if they're stored on their side like this. I know not everyone can do that. If you really can't, then get yourself a cool container to put your markers in. But for real, take care of your markers and they will take care of you. Now guys, I'm going to be using the markers today on my Rooster project. And I really want to give out my Arts Hub magnets. These are for the refrigerators. So if you like or tag someone or like the video or whatever, share it. It all matters. It all helps. So please share this information with your friends and you may get an Arts Hub magnet mailed to you. All roosters are chickens, but not all chickens are roosters. Did you know that? Why is that? Well, that's because the rooster is a male chicken and a hen is a female chicken. Today's art lesson is about a rooster. And so roosters, you can always tell because they have a really big tail, they have really fancy feathers on their wing, they usually have bigger feet and a bigger comb on their head, and they're doing this thing right here. He's doing the cock-a-doodle-doo thing, and usually they do that in the morning when they want to wake you up. The truth is they actually do it all throughout the day. But mine has a big sun behind it. This is a fall picture. You can see I've added leaves in the air and on the ground and a pumpkin. And it's just going to be lots of fun to fill this in today with markers. So I got my markers ready to go. I've got these magnets here to remind you, if you haven't already, to make sure you like this video or share it with your friends or tag a friend so they learn about it. And you might just have one of these mailed to you. All right, guys, I'm going to do part of this now in real time and part of it in time lapse. So let's see. First things first, like I said, this is a fall drawing. So it's always wise to think about what your fall colors are. So fall colors would be oranges, reds, maybe some shades of brown, these, or maybe a tan. These are definitely fall colors. And so I'm going to have those ready for me to do my leaves. I'm going to kind of get myself ready here. And I also want to use, you know, something similar with my sun here, but I'm going to do some different shades of orange and yellow from my Crazy Art collection. So I'm ready that way too. And I want to make sure I have some really bright colors for the tail feathers. And when I say bright, a rooster really can have purple and pink and blue feathers. It is not impossible. They have super duper bright, vibrant colors. So what I want you to do is just kind of get yourself set up with some really bright colors and think about what parts you're going to work on first and second and third. I am going to start with my rooster's comb. Now that is one thing I can tell you for sure, is almost always a red color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline it first. You see how I did that? So that's called the artist's secret. And the artist's secret is when you go around something like this first, and then it's time to color it in second. And that way you just have a much neater result. And so I'm also kind of coloring with more of the side of the marker and just sort of filling it in without scribbling. But you know, markers can make two kinds of lines. I want to show you. I'm going to use this paper plate. You can make a real skinny line, and that's one of the reasons they're so great, but you can also make a thick line. And so instead of doing something like this, which is a scribble, or instead of this, which isn't really a scribble, but it's a little bit scribbly, think about coloring with the side of the marker using nice, thick, overlapping lines. That's a good idea. It's fun to practice on a plate, guys. I'm a big fan of the paper plate. So I'm adding a little more color there. And that looks great, but don't forget about adding a little shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back with my gray now, and I'm just going to add a little bit of gray here and there in a few spots. And the gray does not change it totally. It's still it's just a darker red actually, but it does make it look kind of neat. So it gives it a little bit of light and shadow. So I'm going to keep my gray out for later. The next thing I want to do is do my chicken's eye color, and they often have bright yellow eyes, which I did not realize until I had my own chickens. So I kind of made it an orangish red there, orangish yellow. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take sort of a tan color, and even though I'm going to make my rooster really, really bright and colorful, I'm going to start out with kind of a neutral color. And so I'm going to go around these areas I talked about. I'm going to fill them in with those lines. Remember I just said about the paper plate, you see how I'm using those nice thick lines? So I'm going to do a little bit of overlapping, meaning I'm going to take another color and I'm going to put that other color right on top of the first color. So this is sort of a kind of a nice sort of an almond yellowy color. So I'm just going to layer some colors. I'm going to overlap a little. And that way it's similar, but it's not exactly the same, but it also just gives it a little bit of something extra. The next thing I want to do is work on my chicken's beak, and they are usually kind of a yellow color. So I'm going to go ahead and make that nice and yellow. But I also want to make sure I'm not making it too unnaturally yellow. So I'm going to put a little shadow with my sort of almond color as well. The same one I used on the head. It's a nice way to kind of bring it all together. And the inside of the mouth should definitely be a little bit darker. It should definitely be in shadow. So I'm going to use a little of that color again. And my rooster has a tongue, so I'm going to go ahead and make that red. So just a few more little things I'm going to add. I'm going to make sure I'm adding a little of that shading with my gray. The gray is a great way to add a little bit of detail. You can also add some of those little feather lines with the gray if you like the way that looks. It's just kind of a fun way to add more and more information to your drawing. I like that. That looks pretty good. All right, guys. So I'm going to do the rest of this in time lapse, and then I'll come back and we'll do the conclusion, okay? Are you ready? Here we go. Wow, guys, that was quite an effort, but boy, was it worth it. It is so much fun to make things as bright and colorful as possible. Definitely go back and look again and just make sure that you are hitting all the spots. If you miss a spot, just make sure you go back and fill it in. And as you can see, I had a little bit of fun. I made the body of the rooster sort of like fall colors. And I made the tail and the end of the feathers on the wing really, really fancy, like imaginary. So it's just fun to do whatever you like with the colors. I also had fun with the sun and the sky and just a different way of doing it. And it's just a lot of fun. I hope you guys will try this. And as you know, you can do these over and over again. Think about whatever kind of colors you want to have. They make great gifts as well, friends. Well, that's it for this week. It was a great drawing with you guys. I'll see you next time.